Diary of an Awesome Friendly Kid, Jeff Kinney. Part 1. Hi, my name is Rowley Jefferson, and this is my book. Now I have a diary just like my friend Greg. It's a journal. I called my book Diary of an Awesome Friendly Kid because that's what my dad always says about me. You are an awesome friendly kid. Even though this book is about me, it has a whole lot of Greg in it because he is my best friend. Smack. Sometimes my parents says things that make me think they don't feel the same way about Greg as I do. We do not like Greg. Anyway, I hope you like my book because I worked real hard on it, and I hope my friend Greg likes it too. He totally stole my idea. Here's some boring stuff they made me put in here. Okay, now this book is about to get started for real. I hope you think it's good. Trust me, you won't. My first entry. Hi, I'm Rowley Jefferson, and this is my diary. I hope you like it so far. I decided to start a journal because my best friend Greg Heffley has one, and we usually do the same stuff. Oh yeah, I should mention that me and Greg are best friends. I'm sure you're probably like, well, tell me more about this Greg guy. But my book isn't about him. It's about me. The reason I called my book Diary of an Awesome Friendly Kid is because that's what my dad is always saying about me. Rowley, you are an awesome friendly kid. Like I mentioned already, Greg is my best friend, which makes my dad my second best friend. But I don't tell him that because I don't want to hurt his feelings. We are best friends, right, son? Now that I brought up my dad, I should mention he doesn't seem to like Greg all that much. And the reason I get that feeling is because my dad is always saying it. I do not like Greg. But that's only because my dad doesn't really get Greg's sense of humor. Right now you're probably thinking, hey, Rowley, I thought this book was supposed to be about you. Well, you're right. So from now on, I promise there's going to be a lot more Rowley in here. The first thing you need to know about me is that I live with my mom and dad in a house at the top of Surrey Street, which is the same street my best friend Greg lives on. I already talked about my dad, but my mom is pretty great too because she feeds me healthy food and helps me keep my body clean. Every morning, I walk to school with my best friend Greg. We usually have a total blast when we're together, but sometimes I do things that annoy him. Stop whistling! But what really gets on Greg's nerves is when I copy him, so I'm probably not gonna let him know about this journal because it's just going to make him mad. Anyway, writing this book is a lot of work, so that's all I'm going to do for today. But tomorrow I'll put a little more Greg in here because, like I said, we're best friends. My second entry. Okay, so bad news. Greg found out about my diary. I guess I felt kind of proud that I had my own journal and I wanted to show him, but just like I predicted, it made him mad. Greg said I totally ripped him off and that he was going to sue me for stealing his idea. I said, well, go ahead and try because you are not the first person to write in a diary. Then Greg said it's a journal, not a diary, and then he whacked me with my own book. I told Greg if he was going to be a jerk, then I wouldn't say nice things about him in my journal. Then I showed him what I wrote so far. At first, he seemed annoyed because I always forget to draw noses on people. But then he said my book gave him an idea. Greg said one day he's going to be rich and famous and everyone will want to know his whole life story. And he said I could be the one to write it. I said I thought that's what your journal is for. And he said that's his autobiography, but my book could be his biography. Greg said there are going to be a lot of biographies about him one day, but he'll give me the chance to write the first one. I thought that sounded like a good idea because I'm Greg's best friend and no one knows him better than me. So I'm going to start this book over with a new title and now the main character is going to be Greg instead of me. But don't worry, I'm still going to be in it a lot too. Diary of Greg Heffley by Greg Heffley's best friend, Rowley Jefferson. Early life. Most biographies about presidents and famous people start with a chapter called Early Life. Well, the problem is that I didn't meet Greg until the fourth grade, so I don't know a lot about what happened to him before then. I've seen a few photos hanging on the walls in Greg's house, and from what I can tell, he was a regular baby. And if he did anything important when he was little, you can't really tell from the pictures. Anyway, fast forward to right before the start of fourth grade, and now this biography is going to get a lot more detailed. We used to live in a whole different state, but then my dad got a job and we had to move. My family bought a new house at the top of Surrey Street and we moved in over the summer. The first few days I didn't leave the house because I was scared about being in a new place. I know you are probably wondering, well, when is he going to meet Greg? But just wait because I am getting to that part. My mom said maybe I should try to make some friends, and she even bought me a book called How to Make Friends in New Places to help me do it. The book had all kinds of things like knock-knock jokes to help a kid like me meet new people. But the tricks in the book didn't really work on Greg. Knock knock. Hey, I said knock knock. Did you hear me say knock knock? Mom, there's some weird kid at the door. Luckily, me and Greg became friends anyway. I told Greg I lived in the new house at the top of the hill, and he said that was kind of bad news for me because when our lot was empty, he planted a flag there, so now he owned my house plus everything in it. But later on, my dad told me that wasn't true, and then he went to Greg's house to get my bike back. I'm pretty sure that's the first time my dad told me what he thought about Greg. I do not like Greg, but I like Greg a lot. He is always doing hilarious things like making me laugh right after I take a big gulp of milk. Plus, Greg is always playing wacky pranks on me, and they usually make me laugh pretty hard too. So I'll bet you can tell me why Greg and I have been best friends since fourth grade. I even got us a locket to make it official, but Greg says those things are for girls and that's why he won't wear his half. Well, I could probably fill up a whole book with all the zany things me and Greg do, but since this is his biography, I should probably write some stuff about his family. Greg has a mom and dad just like I do, but they are pretty regular parents, so I don't have a lot to say about them. But Greg isn't an only child like me. He's got an older brother named Roderick who has a rock band called Loaded Diaper. Some of their songs have swears in them, so my mom and dad won't let me be at the Heffley's house when Roderick has practice. Greg also has a little brother named Manny who is only 3. And don't ask me why, but the first time I went to Greg's for a play date, Manny randomly pulled down his pants and showed me his heaney. Now, every time I see Manny, he acts like we have this big secret or something, which makes me feel uncomfortable. Anyway, I guess that wraps up the first chapter of Greg's biography. And if you're thinking, Rowley, when are we going to get to the exciting parts? Then just wait. The time I had my first sleepover at Greg's. After me and Greg met, we had a few playdates at my house and a few playdates at his house. Oh yeah, I forgot. Greg doesn't like it when I call them playdates, so I will have to change that in the next draft or else I'm gonna get whapped again. Anyway, me and Greg hung out a lot at each other's houses, but then one day he invited me to his house for a sleepover. I was pretty worried because I've never slept away from home before. In fact, I wasn't even sleeping in my own bed yet because I was scared. I told my mom I was too nervous to stay at Greg's, but I got a little less nervous when she said I could take carrots with me. When I got to Greg's, we played in his room for a while, but at 9, Mrs. Heffley said it was time to go to bed, and she said we had to sleep in the basement. Well, now I was super nervous because I think basements are really creepy. As soon as Mrs. Heffley turned the lights off, Greg said he needed to tell me something important. He told me there's a half man, half goat that lives in the woods in our neighborhood, so I probably shouldn't go outside alone at night. Well, I was not happy to hear that news, and I really wished someone told my parents about this goat guy before we moved into the neighborhood. Anyway, the goat thing got me totally spooked, so I hid under the covers. But I think Greg got pretty spooked too because he crawled under them with me. Then all of a sudden, there was this crazy noise right outside the window, and it sounded exactly how a half man, half goat would sound. Me and Greg didn't want to get eaten by this goat guy, so we got out of there as fast as we could. But we almost died anyway because we trampled each other running up the stairs. We locked ourselves in the laundry room so the goat man couldn't get to us. But that's when we found out it wasn't the goat guy at all. It was just Greg's brother Roderick playing a trick on us. Okay, this next part is embarrassing, but since it's a biography, I've got to tell the whole truth. I wet my pants when we were in the basement and heard those noises outside. Mrs. Heffley gave me an extra pair of Greg's underwear, but they were too small. So my dad had to come get me and bring me home in the middle of the night. It was a long time before I was allowed to go to Greg's for another sleepover, but that's a much longer story, and I'm not even sure if there's room for that one in this book. Saved Greg from Tevin Larkin's birthday party. There is a kid named Tevin Larkin who lives over on Speen Street, and last summer his mom invited me and Greg to Tevin's birthday party. We didn't want to go because Tevin is hyper, but both our moms said we had to. It turned out that me and Greg were the only kids invited to Tevin's party, but we didn't know that until we got there. After we gave Tevin his presents, his mom said it was time for party activities. The first activity was to watch this movie about a guy who could turn into a bear and an eagle and a bunch of other animals. When the movie was over, Tevin wanted to watch it again. But me and Greg told Tevin's mom we didn't want to watch the movie a second time, so she said we could move on to the other activities like pin the tail on the donkey. Well, that just made Tevin mad. He got all wound up and started acting like the guy in the movie who could turn into animals. I guess Tevin's mom was used to this sort of thing, but me and Greg didn't know what we were supposed to do. We asked Mrs. Larkin if she could take us home, but she said there were still 2 hours to go in the party. So we went out to the back door and waited in the yard for Tevin to calm down. But eventually, Tevin found us, and now he was acting totally nuts. I took a few steps back to get out of Tevin's way, but that's when I fell into a giant ditch. Luckily, the ditch wasn't too deep, or I probably would have broken some bones. But when I got to my feet, I heard this buzzing noise all around me. It turned out there was a hornet's nest at the bottom of the ditch, and they were all stirred up. I got stung 12 times, and 2 of the stings were made inside my mouth. Mrs. Larkin drove me home early, and Greg hitched a ride too. Anyway, Greg is always saying he owes me for getting him out of that party, and I put it in this book in case I ever need to remind him. Greg's accomplishments. Every biography I've ever read for school has a chapter called Accomplishments, so I figure I better add that in here before I forget. The problem is that Greg is only a kid, and most of his accomplishments haven't happened yet. So I'll leave some blank space here so I can fill it in later.